Tell me about your call.
Okay, my call. Well, if my mother was here and my grandmothers were here, they would tell you I had a Jeremiah call from the womb. Ironically, my mother would say I would be still all week in her womb until she went to church on Sunday. She said it would be like I was in there jumping in her womb, the music and the energy of the church. I think that's ironic, and then at the age of 2 and 3, I would come home and mimic my pastor. So I grew up in Decatur, Georgia, Lithonia, Georgia, and Decatur right next door to each other on the east side of Atlanta. So the Greater Travelers Rest Baptist Church is my home church. Reverend H.F. Shepherd had an afro, tall, about 6'3", 6'4". I wanted to be just like him. So some of my earlier clips of preaching, there's a fro because I wanted to be like Reverend Shepherd. But when I was 2 and 3 and 4 years old, I would come home and mimic everything I saw at church. I would pull the trash can out, put a towel over the trash can, set my little plastic chairs up in the kitchen or on the fireplace. I would set up church and play church. So I was known as the little kid that would play church. I didn't know then how much the Lord was really molding me and preparing me for where I was headed. And so some older lady told my mother, watch him. And if this continues till around the age of 12 or 13, then you might have something special. Right now, he's a kid. That's what kids do. They lock in on something and they mimic it. They have fun. So around 12 or 13, I really began to feel this yearning to do more in ministry. I was very, very close with my youth pastor. We called him Reverend Buddy, but his name is Norman Thomas. He took a lot of time with me, and I talked to my pastor. And I was very nervous around the age of 13 or 14. I said, what if I told you, my pastor this time is Dr. E. Dewey Smith. Reverend Shepherd has retired, 03. Pastor Smith has come December 03. So now I'm about 12, 13 years old. And I went to him and said, what if I were to tell you that possibly, maybe, could be that I might happen to feel that I think I might be called to preach. It was all of that. And he just smiled. He said, well, I would get you involved in the ministerial program. And he gave me some details of what that would look like. Well, long story short, my first sermon ended up being April 12th, 2006, but it wasn't at a church. It was on a Wednesday morning at my high school. MLK High School there in Lithonia, Georgia. There was a ministry called FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. The football players came there, the band members came there, basketball players. And so Coach Bird, Diane Bird, a black woman, told me that I was gonna bring the message that day. And I mean told me. I was like, no, I don't think. She said, no, you'll be fine, just 5-6 minutes. And sure enough, I stood up and preached April 12th, 2006, and this year makes my 17th year preaching. And that date is special for me because it did not happen in a church. And I started preaching there. Students will go out and tell their parents. Reggie Sharpe is a young minister at school that does Bible study in the morning. So my first invitations came from students going to tell their grandparents and their pastors, there's this kid at my school that preaches to us and he's good. And so that's how my ministry took off. My pastor was even shocked. And he was like, well, obviously the Lord's hand is on your life. You were going to preach, but you were being invited. And so he knew it, he saw it. I was called preacher man all my life as a little kid. So I started preaching at 15 years old.